everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. My name is Tom Borg, and today we've got a special guest with us, Mr. Mike Dergis. Mike is founder of Sigred Solutions, a management, recruitment, and leadership advisory company. Sigred Solutions helps great employers connect with and develop amazing talent. Now, their services range from senior management and middle management recruiting to helping companies develop high-performing teams and manage complex change. Mike is a recovering consultant who has spent time in international strategy consulting as a principal for a global consulting firm, operations management as COO as for a tier one automotive supplier, as well as senior positions for several high-tech entrepreneurial startups. Management recruiting is his fourth and expected final career. Mike, welcome to the program.
Tom, thank you so much for inviting me. It's really great to be here.
Thank you, Michael. Michael, one of the things I keep hearing from a lot of the clients I've been working with is that you just can't find good candidates out there to interview. You can't find good people to join your company. What's your take on all that?
It is, especially today, recruiting is really hard. There's many more job openings than there are candidates, people looking for work. And it takes a lot of effort on the part of employers to go out and actively find those candidates. We have that issue with our employers. It's frankly one of the reasons they'll come to us to help with those searches. But then honestly, it's becoming more challenging for us as professional recruiters as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes you hear the objection from some companies when you talk about a recruiter that some of them are expensive or they can be expensive. How would you answer that?
Yeah, there is obviously a cost associated with it. We tend to partner with our clients, and so we'll take the approach of actively taking on that workload. So rather than having to hire somebody to go out and do the recruiting, you can let us handle that heavy lift. And I think in terms of using a professional management recruiter, there are a number of benefits that come to the employer. One is the searches tend to be faster because it's all we do. We know the market, we know the processes. We go out and we find those candidates and we can get them to you faster than if you were running a search on your own. The second is just really a proactive identification of candidates. A lot of employers really kind of follow what we call a post and pray approach. So they'll have their resume, or they'll have their job description rather, and they'll post it on their website. They'll post it maybe on Indeed or on LinkedIn, and they'll pray that they get good candidates. And especially today, that doesn't work. You're either getting a lot of candidates that aren't qualified for what you're looking for, or, I mean, quite honestly, you're not getting any candidates at all. Which raises a lot of frustration. So a good recruiter is going out and actively identifying those people that fit your experience, what you need from an experience standpoint, but then also importantly from a culture standpoint. The other thing is really, as I mentioned kind of earlier, recruiters will take the burden off of you. So, your hiring managers have day jobs. Your HR department has they've got to get the payroll out on time. The recruiters do all of that upfront heavy lift to make sure that when your hiring manager and when your HR department is looking at candidates, they're validated, they're vetted, they're ready to go. So really a good portion of the process is handled upfront.
Well, when it comes to management recruiter, what should our listeners look for in deciding which one to hire?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think first off is integrity. The management recruiter is an extension of your company. They are how the candidates interact with the recruiter is going to be, partly how they view your company. So you want to look for a recruiter that can really represent your brand as an employer and give that, good candidate experience. One of the other things that, so when we're talking with our employers, we want to build a level of trust. And so, they know us, they trust our judgment, obviously, in terms of what we're looking for. Another thing to look for is, do the recruiters get to know you, get to know your company, get to know your business? Do they come out to the plant? If it's a plant manager role, are they out there on the floor, seeing the people, seeing the processes, meeting with them to get a feel for what's the culture like? Do they know your industry? Are they interested in, if they don't know your industry, because it's not always that, that they will, and that's not necessarily a problem, but are they interested in learning it? Are they learning what makes it tick, what's important to you? And then finally, flexibility. Especially today with the challenges in hiring, having a recruiter that's flexible, so they'll meet you on your terms and at your times. Importantly, they'll meet the candidates on their terms and their times. The days where it made sense to drag a candidate from their work into your office to sit for an interview as a recruiter is gone. It's much more efficient to do it as a Zoom call. They can fit it in during their lunch. They can fit it in the evenings. You've got to look for that flexibility on the part of the recruiter, because it is a very, the talent is scarce at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask this. I have some questions I prepared here. What do I need to do to get the most out of working with the recruiter? So if I was an employer looking to hire your company, what would I need to do? What would be my responsibilities to make sure that we get the most out of hiring you?
Yeah, another good question. Working with a recruiter really is a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And, we as a recruiter are here to make our clients, to make your life easier. That's, that's really our sole purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that, being a partnership, being a relationship is really much, it's a two-way street. What we find in our most successful partnerships with our clients is one, communication. We have fantastic communication, from our clients to us, and, and vice versa. So understanding and communicating about expectations, if this is a role that, you need done tomorrow, or you have very specific skill sets, whatever, communicating those expectations to us. Communication of the process is really important. If it's, for example, a confidential search, at what point in the process do we get to share, who you are as a client to the candidates? Honestly, and this is one that doesn't always happen, is feedback on the candidates. So as you interview candidates that are presented from the recruiter, providing feedback. What did you like about them? What didn't you like about them? Because that helps us as recruiters fine tune our approach. And as we're talking with candidates, we get much better at understanding, okay, yeah, this candidate is going to fit with that client, or no, this candidate might fit well with another client, but not so much with you. So it really helps make our process faster, and obviously makes the results for you as a client much better. I'd say responsiveness is another thing to look for. So, kind of tying into that communication aspect. On our side, you want the recruiters to be very responsive, obviously, to your need, but you as a client need to be responsive. Again, time-sensitive market. Getting this feedback, yeah, we like this candidate, we want to interview them, or no, we don't, so we can let them off the hook. Or finally, setting up interviews, being timely about that. Right now, if you take 2-3 weeks to set up an interview, good candidates are gone. They've got other jobs. So those two things I'd say are kind of really key to kind of successfully navigating and working with recruiters.
Sure. Well, here's another thought. When you're working with a client, do you go out and interview not just, say, the personnel manager, but you mentioned earlier, you go into the plant, do you have other people that are on a committee, so to speak, and they're telling you the kind of person they're looking for, people that are right there on the floor working with the potential person you're going to hire?
Excellent. Yeah, interesting question. It's kind of case by case by client in terms of what they're looking for. But we focus and we feel very strongly that the culture and the personal attributes are as important, if not more important, than the skill sets and the experience. I can look at a resume, I can look at an Indeed or LinkedIn profile, and kind of understand where they've come from and what their experiences are. And obviously we test that in the interview process. But in going to the client site and talking to the hiring managers and talking to, could be the president, the COO of the operation as well, we want to get a feel for what's going to make this person successful in that organization. So we will ask questions, like what, in 12 months, what does success look like for this candidate? And then what are the key attributes? So for example, it could be a roll up your sleeves organization. So everybody just jumps in, pitches in to do what needs to be done, whether it's for their coworkers or the customers or whatever. That could be an attribute that they want us to look for. It could be an entrepreneurial spirit where, they're, regardless of whether they come from, a Fortune 500 or a, small startup, they understand, they get that concept of, doing what it takes, maybe working on a shoestring budget, being able to adapt and pivot. That could be important to them. Teamwork, collaboration is another one that a lot of companies really want to press on. So we identify all of those characteristics and then set specific interview questions and a specific interview guideline to test for those. And then when we present candidates to our clients, they get a very detailed report out saying, okay, on teamwork, here's the experience, here's what they've done, here's where they've had a team fail and what they did to overcome that. So you get a really good feel for the candidate before you even meet them.
Do you ever get to the point with a client where they've got their sights set on one particular candidate, but your company's feeling they've actually got another candidate that's better qualified, would be a better fit? Do you make recommendations to them, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a touchy subject in a sense, in
Okay.
terms of, we obviously, as recruiters and kind of doing this for a living, get a gut feel for, who's going to be successful, who our top candidate is. But we're not the client. We're not walking in their shoes, on a daily basis.
Right.
So initially we do try and keep our view out of it. We want to present the candidates as they present to us and let the client make the decision. Most times they ask, oh, what's your opinion? And so we'll give our thoughts on strengths and weaknesses of all the candidates, because, even our favorite might have, typically does have, some weakness that they, might want to address. But honestly, we don't push clients in a specific direction. All of the candidates that we present, we would stand behind. Any of those 3 to 5 should be perfectly capable of doing the job. It's now then on the client side, who do they feel most comfortable with?
Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. Where they're having that gut feeling themselves, if this is somebody they feel would be a good fit, it just seems to be a good place for that person to come to work.
Absolutely.
How about this one? I want to improve my in-house recruiting. What should I be doing? So let's say, for instance, we're doing our own recruiting. Your client says that to you. What would you suggest to them?
Yeah, there's a number of things that companies can do, and quite often, frankly, shoot themselves in the foot by not doing. And I don't, they're not necessarily expensive. They take some time and they take some effort. I honestly, I still believe that recruiting is not rocket science. It's, it takes a certain emotional sensitivity and understanding, but anybody can do it. I think being proactive is one of the key things. So, we talked about post and pray. Don't do that. Be proactive in terms of, what skill sets you're looking for. Go out and find those people. And it's leveraging your network. It's leveraging your other employees. They know who's going to be good and fit in the organization. LinkedIn, obviously, whether it's your LinkedIn network, post the job description to your friends and network on LinkedIn. Look for specific people through LinkedIn, and then you can use the job posting board there, or other job boards, whether it's Indeed, whomever. I'd say personalize the experience. So a recent story I had from a candidate was they were going and interviewing. They had 2 different job interviews in back to back, and the first interview went into a plant, was 600 person manufacturing facility. The plant manager actually came out and took them on the tour and introduced them to people, talked about the job, spent, an hour and a half with this candidate, and really gave them a feel. Now, I mean, this was probably not the hottest, fire that they were putting out, but the plant manager took that time. The next interview was same manufacturing plant, different company, but manufacturing plant. Met with the recruiter forgot to bring the resume and said, oh, that's okay. That's not important. Didn't really know about the job, didn't have anything to say about the company.
Mm.
And you look and, okay, if I'm a candidate, which company am I going to go with? Which one's investing in me as a candidate and a potential employee. So kind of personalizing that, making sure you've got a high touch, a personal approach to it.
Mm-hmm.
Speed is also really important, especially with bigger companies that have this bureaucratic, historic process of recruiting. Things just need to move faster now. Good candidates, if they are on the market, will get snapped up in a week. We had, and this is through no fault of our client, we started a search on a Monday. On a Friday, we presented some candidates to them. By the next Monday, 2 of those candidates had other jobs.
Wow.
No fault in that process. They were moving as fast as possible. But, if you delayed in another week, another 2 candidates are gone. Mm-hmm. So making sure that your process is adaptable, flexible, but also fast is really important. And then lastly, kind of tying into that, that personalization aspect, communication. You may have heard the term ghosting. Historically, it was employers that ghosted candidates. They'd come in for an interview and never hear back. Now that it's switched and it's candidates that are ghosting the employers, but it's still important. Provide feedback. You don't have to go into the nitty gritty, but they do appreciate just knowing that they're not under consideration anymore. It's quite honestly, it's a common courtesy, but it's something that you as an employer will also start to grow your brand as an employer and your reputation as an employer by doing those little things.
So you're saying that's something both parties should do. The candidate, if they've gotten another position, to let that employer who's looking at hiring them, let them know that they're already gone someplace else, and vice versa. Those companies that are doing the hiring, not get back to the candidates they've interviewed and leave them out there.
Absolutely. And, as an employer, when you're in the interview process, I think it's perfectly all right to ask them, what other irons in the fire do they have? Is there anything, that's imminent? And to let them know it's okay. Let us know if you get another job, me as an employer, me as a recruiter, I'm happy for you. It may be our loss, absolutely, but I'm happy that you found something. But let us know, and then we can take you off the list. And as a employee or a candidate, it means you're not burning a bridge. You can always then potentially come back if you've had a good relationship and something changes down the road. You've still got that opportunity as potentially a live opportunity.
Great point, because things do change. Grass isn't always greener on the other side. People might want to go back and find out that position is still available a month or 6 months later.
Absolutely.
Vice versa. Sure. Okay. That makes sense. Well, Michael, this has been fantastic. How can our listeners get a hold of you? How can they, best way to contact you?
Yeah, they can reach out to me directly. And I don't know if you post the email address, but
we'll post that. It should be up there on the screen now. Go ahead, Mike.
Perfect. And our website is www.sigredsolutions.com. You can take a look at our services, both from the recruiting and the leadership advisory side of things.
Okay. And what's a number they could reach at, just in case they're just listening?
Phone number is 248-219-6541.
Very good. Well, Mike, thank you so much.